Hey there, thank you so much for joining me again today. I'm so happy that Rachel Packworth has decided to come back to join me once again. Hey Rachel, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, Anne?
I'm doing great. I'm so great. I'm so happy that you've decided to come back and talk to us and further our conversation on the importance of clearing our junk out of our trunks, clearing that clutter out of our lives. And
Happy to be here.
it's so important, especially right now. It's just so important for us to kind of get our heads screwed on right, given everything we've all been going through in 2020. We don't need to elaborate on that too much. But for those of you who don't know, Rachel is she's a professional online organizer. So she can actually meet with you online to help you clear out the clutter in your house. She's from Green and Tidy Life, greenandtidylife.com. I get your website mixed up every time.
It's the name of the company is Green and Tidy. The name
Green and Tidy, but it's www.mygreenandtidylife.co.uk.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Because when I set the business up, all the Green and Tidy domain names have been taken by gardening companies.
What? That's wrong. Anyway, I'll be posting them up there so everybody gets a handle on it. But we had so much fun last time discussing the importance of clearing the clutter out of our lives. And Rachel's whole theory is that when your home works well, your life works well too, right? So I know that's so true for me. If my office, for example, is a mess, I know that I'm a mental mess, right? There's just no mistaking that. So I do try to keep reasonably decluttered for that reason. But today we're going to be talking about various tips on working from our homes, because many of us are working from our homes, and that provides a new stressor. And it can be really difficult, especially if you're working in small quarters. So Rachel's going to be giving us some tips on that. She's also going to be giving us some tips on living with clutteraholics, Rachel's word. I love that. And we all know them. We love them dearly, but sometimes it's difficult to deal with them. So she'll be giving us some tips on how to work with that. And the most unexpected things that Rachel has ever found while decluttering people's spaces. So you got to stay tuned for that. At the end of this, we're going to be talking about a free course that you're going to be able to sign up for. It's called The 7 Biggest Clutter Clearing Mistakes and How to Avoid Them. Rachel's got a fantastic free course that you'll be able to sign up for and take advantage of her expertise. So Rachel, tell us, how is it that we can work out of our homes better? What do we need to do? And why is it important? Let's talk about clutter clearing. What's the importance of clutter clearing? Why do we need to be free of our clutter anyways?
Yeah,
that's where it begins, right?
You touched on there about like what I always say, which is when your home works, your life works.
Yeah.
When you have a decluttered, organized, functioning home, you don't even notice, but it's what enables you to live the life you want to live. It's like a springboard, it's your foundation. It's like a solid foundation beneath you. You don't have to worry about it. It just is you to get on and live that life. Yeah, house gets out of whack if things are not set up well, if it's not efficient, if it's not productive. That's me making that noise for you.
What's that?
There's a sound. There was a.
There is. That's my fault. That's my fault. I was afraid the audio wasn't quite right. Okay. My apologies.
That's all right. No worries. Yeah, so if your house isn't working well, if your home isn't working well, if it's not efficient, if it's cluttered, if you're tripping over things, if you can't find things, if everything's always messy, it holds you back and you can't live the life you want to live. And actually, it works the other way too. So when your home works, your life works. But actually, your home not working is a symptom of your life not working. So if you've got a cluttered desk, it could well be that you're disempowered around your working life. And if you've got a cluttered bedroom, you might well be disempowered around your health or around your romantic life. So you can kind of see it working in both directions. But yeah, that's why decluttering and organizing is so important, because it makes your whole life work.
So if it's so great, what stops people from doing it? Because there's a lot of resistance to it.
Sure. I think it's a couple of things. I think the first thing is it's just really, really easy to feel overwhelmed. It can feel like a really big task to take on, particularly if things have got a bit out of control. So we live in affluent societies where even if we don't feel particularly well off, there's a lot of free stuff around. You go and buy something and it comes on a buy one get one free offer, or you buy a magazine and it comes with a free gift, or somebody gives you presents, or the kids come home from school with stuff. And so we're kind of constantly acquiring stuff, even if that stuff isn't of particularly amazing quality. And so on top of all the other things that we have to do in our lives, like running our families and our health and our jobs and our community responsibilities and keeping fit and cooking and, you know, all the normal stuff that we have to do. On top of all that, we have to manage all this stuff. And if we don't keep on top of it, before you know it, you feel overwhelmed. And once you feel overwhelmed, it feels like you can't get started, and then it seems like a bigger job than it really is. So often getting started is the barrier.
Right.
And then the other thing is that we get disconnected from what I was just saying about how when your home works, your life works. And so decluttering and organizing can be, you know, people tend to see it as a bit of a boring, annoying task that, you know, I've just got to get it done. And, you know, if you're into organizing, like, you know, you can almost feel like it's a little bit geeky.
Yeah.
But the truth is that the reason why we declutter and organize is to make our lives work. But if we don't have that sense of that connection, if we don't naturally see that connection between our home working and our life working, then we don't have that motivation to make our homes work. So I think that's what gets in the way.
And don't you think there's certain emotional component to it too, in the sense that, oh, I can't possibly give this away because Aunt Matilda gave it to me 25 years ago, and what would she think of me? And, you know, I hold on to my kids' artwork because they'll think I'm a terrible mother if I don't, you know, hold on to it.
Yes, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's a well-documented psychological phenomenon called the endowment effect, whereby as soon as we own something, that thing seems more valuable. And it seems more valuable even than something that's completely equivalent that we don't own. And the experiment used to demonstrate it is they do a kind of, what you call it, like a cheating experiment. People don't know what experiment they're taking part in. So they're asked to take part in a psychological experiment. And then they're told they're going to be given a little free gift as a gift to say thank you for participating. But of course, that's the real experiment. So they're given either a mug or a bar of chocolate. And they're given the bar of chocolate, say, and then they say, this bar of chocolate is worth $1.99, and here you are, here's your free gift. Oh, actually, if you like, you could swap it for this mug. It's also worth $1.99. We give some people a mug. Would you rather have a mug or would you rather have the chocolate? But they've already got the chocolate. And a very high proportion of people will say, no, I'll keep the chocolate, even though they've been told the mug.
Rightly so.
And then the other half of the group are given the opposite. So they're given the mug.
Yeah.
And they're given, here's a mug to say thank you very much for participating. That's worth $1.99. Oh, actually, you do give some people a bar of chocolate. You'd rather have a bar of chocolate. It's also worth $1.99. You can have that instead if you want. And again, the same proportion, and it's way over half, will keep the mug. So it's got nothing to do with the value of the item. It's to do with the fact that you've already been given it and now it's yours. And so it suddenly seems more valuable just yours. So you're dealing with that when you deal with your own stuff. Plus, all clutter is either a deferred decision or an incomplete action. Okay. Every single piece of clutter around your home, if you sit and look around your home now, you'll see they're all either incomplete actions or deferred decisions. And so in order to clear clutter, you have to make those decisions and take those actions. Otherwise, you can't get rid of the stuff. Now, that's the beauty of it. That's why it makes your life work. That's why when you clear your clutter, you get your finances working and your health working and your car working, and, you know, everything gets working. That's why. It's because you're taking those decisions and taking those actions. However, it can feel a bit like, oh, you know, that when you get into all that stuff, there's going to be all these decisions to take and there's going to be all these actions to take. And so it can seem a bit daunting, and that gets in the way of people starting to get going on it.
Yeah, and one of the things that we talk about in whenever I'm doing any kind of soul coaching with my clients is that sometimes people will measure their self-worth based upon how much stuff they keep, how much they honor it, how much they value it. I'm a good person because I've kept this all this time because, you know, I just love you and I adore you, and I want to show you that by keeping all this stuff, right? But where in fact the person that gave it to you in the first place has long since forgotten they ever gave it to you, and they really don't give a crap, you know, whether you have it or not. Maybe it was a gift of obligation or whatever at the time, but we get saddled down and buried with all of this stuff. The other consideration is that in my field of work, everything we think of is thought of energetically. So I always say, you know, if you're going to keep that vase, you know, you're going to keep that vase because it's so special to you and whatnot, you just plugged a space, right? You just took up a space. And so you have to ask yourself, what am I willing to sacrifice in favor of keeping this vase? Because if I keep this vase, I've plugged that space, the universe can't bring me something else that might be more appropriate for me. And sometimes what's more appropriate for us is not putting something else in the place of the vase, but it's actually creating a space to allow an opportunity to come in.
Yeah, it's really true. I have some empty shelves at my house. You know, I don't need to put anything on them, and it would bother some people. They would want to put stuff on them, but I'm quite happy to have them empty. There's a couple of shelves in a bookcase, and there's a couple of shelves in a cupboard that I just happen to need to put anything on, and that's fine. I actually quite like the fact that there's room to expand. You know, should
Yes.
something else, should I want to acquire something else, I would have somewhere to put it.
So true. So, if you could give students or maybe people who are working out of their homes a little bit of advice with regards to decluttering and keeping their space clear, what would be a few tips that you could share with them? Because it seems like an awful lot of people are working out of their homes right now, and many of us were not prepared to do that.
Yeah.
Pandemic hit.
I think that the working at home one, particularly obviously this year, it's huge, because what happens when you work at home, and particularly if it's, as it has been for many people this year, it's happened quite quickly. They've gone from working off site to suddenly they've got to work at home, might not be set up for it. But what's happened is you've ended up putting two very separate parts of your life, your work life and your home life, in one place. And the danger of that is that they each start to impact on the other in a not very helpful way. So that your home life leads into your work life, and your work life leads into your home life, and you end up feeling that you're not doing a very good job on either of them. You know, even though you've got the same amount of time, because it's getting mixed up, and the same amount, well, you've probably got less space, but everything's getting mixed up. And so you don't, you end up stressed and just feeling like you're failing all the time, which is horrible, and you really don't want that. So the answer is to try and maintain that division between them, and you do that through zoning. And we talked about this a little bit before, didn't we? So you zone both your space and your time. So if we start with space, you need to make a workspace for yourself. Now, obviously, in an ideal world, you would have, like I have, because I've worked from home for over 20 years. I've got an actual room in my home, which is set up as an office, and this is my workspace. And as far as possible, I keep my home life out of it, and this is where I do my work. But for a lot of people who've been shifted to home working during the pandemic, that's just a luxury. They just can't have that. They don't have that space available. So then what you have to do is ideally find a place in the home that you can have continually set up as an office. So even if it's just a part of the dining room table, or a section of the kitchen table, even if it's just a part of a room, ideally have it as your workspace and keep it that way, so that you don't have to clear it away at the end of each day. But the rest of the household, the rest of your family, or whoever else you live with, must agree not to touch it. They mustn't move anything or add anything to it or pile things on top of it. It's got to be sacred to you. And again, for some people, that simply isn't going to be possible if you're in a busy family home, and it just isn't going to be the space to do that. So if you really can't do that, then you have to have a portable office. So you have to have an office in a box. You have to have a box in which you put everything you need for working. So that's your stationery, but also the papers that you're working on, maybe a laptop, everything that you're going to need to work with. And each time you start work, you take that box and you put it where you're going to be working, you unload it, or you do your work, and at the end you load it all back in again. And again, nobody else is allowed to touch that box but you. It's
I love that.
Office in a box.
Yeah, I love that.
And then the other thing you have to zone is your time. And in some ways, I think this is tougher. This is a harder thing to do. So when you work out of the home, you leave the home at 7:30 or whatever time it is you need to go to work, and you're kind of away from the home. And I know the phone can ring, but you are separated. Your time is separated until you come home again at the end of the day. And you've got to try and replicate that as much as you can. So you've got to say, I'm going to work between these hours, and the people that might disturb me know not to disturb me at these hours. I'm going to take breaks. I'm going to have a proper break for lunch. Maybe I'm going to have a break for, a 5-minute break sort of every hour or so. I'm going to look after my mental well-being that way. And these are my working hours. And at the end of the day, I'm going to stop. And that also means, I have to say this because it is something I bang on about a lot. You've really got to have rules about social media and about when you check in with all that stuff on your phone. I never check social media or email until I am up, dressed, breakfasted, and ready to go, because you will tell yourself, like, I'm just quickly going to check and I won't get caught up in it. But they're designed to catch you. They're designed to pull you in. And before you know, it's 3:30 in the afternoon, you haven't had breakfast, you never got dressed, you feel grim, you're stressed, you're thirsty, but you can't get away because the next thing's pulling you in, the next thing's pulling you in. You've got to have rules around when you can check in on that stuff.
So that's it. Yeah. This is interesting, because what you're talking about are boundaries, setting up healthy boundaries for ourselves. And one of the things numerologically that I look at in people's charts, I look for what's called karmic lessons. Okay, so a karmic lesson happens when there are missing letters from your birth name. So if you have no G's, P's as in Peter, or Y's like yellow in your birth name, then you have a karmic lesson of 8. And you'd be surprised how many people have this karmic lesson of 8. And the 8 relates to learning how to set up healthy boundaries, learning how learning the reality that we teach people how to treat us. So if you're not going to respect your workspace, guess what? Nobody's going to respect it for you, right? Because you've already set the table. You've already said it's totally fine to throw your SpaghettiOs at my laptop, you know? So it's, you know, it'd be interesting to see how many people actually have that karmic lesson of 8, because it is.
Do you have to be missing all 3 of them or missing any of them?
Any of them. So if you have, see, it all relates to the numbers, actually the number 8, sorry. So when the 8 is a karmic lesson, okay? And I'm sorry, I said GPY. I can't believe I did that. It's HQZ. Sorry. That's why I said it was so common. I was writing it down as you were talking. I completely screwed that up. But it's the H, the Q, and the Z. If you have no H's, no Q's, or any Z's in your birth name, it means that you have no letters in your birth name that relate to the number 8, the vibration of the 8. So the 8 karmic lesson relates to learning how to step into your power, learning how to say, this is important to me, setting boundaries, right? And I feel that it'd be interesting to see how many of your clients don't have any H, Q's, or Z's in their birth name.
So but if you've got an H or a Q or a Z, you've got that influence, right? You don't need to have all 3.
Correct. Yes. So if in your particular case, you don't have this because your first name is Rachel and there's an H in there. So you're fine, right?
And I just quickly went in my head because like part of the reason why I can do this job is that I have a mother who taught me how to be organized. She was a teacher and she's naturally organized, and she taught me to be organized. And I just quickly ran through our names, and in my head, myself and all 3 of my brothers have H's in either our first name or our middle name.
Interesting.
Actually, yeah. Our surname has an H in it too, so we got loads of H's.
Yeah, so that tells me you have strong character and somebody who can stand up for themselves to say, hey, this is important to me. But believe it or not, most people have the karmic lesson of the 8 in their charts. I would say probably 75%.
So was it H? What were the other 2 letters? Sorry.
H, Q, or Z.
Now my mom.
Sorry. Go ahead.
My mom didn't have any of those letters in her birth name.
Oh, is that right? Interesting. Well, she probably had an 8 core number somewhere. Might have been a life path number 8, expression number 8, heart's desire, or a birthday of an 8, right? Okay. So yeah. But anyway, it was just something to note. So how is it that we, he won't admit it, but I do live with a bit of a clutteraholic, right? And so we have a tendency, as I said in my earlier video with you, we've built a greenhouse, we've built, a huge shed out back and whatnot, and we're supposed to be getting rid of all this stuff, but we just have more space now.
Yeah.
We occupy stuff. So is there help for me?
Well, 2 things. So first off, what you're touching on there, you mentioned before my free course, which is the 7 biggest clutter clearing mistakes and how to avoid them. So as a tip for you, the first mistake is to try to solve your clutter problem through storage. To think, oh, I've got too much stuff, I need to build a greenhouse, rather than
damn.
Right in the territory there. And the other thing to say, I think, is that in pretty much every couple, one person will say the other person has too much clutter. Possibly they'll both say the other person has too much clutter, because the fact that you've got 2 separate people, and so you're going to have different tolerance levels for clutter. And also, it's very easy to think that, like, to kind of, we can all see everybody else's clutter. So when you look at your partner's stuff, you think, oh, why are you keeping that collection of old comics from when you were 15? But they're looking at your stuff and thinking, oh my God, do you really need to keep all those plastic plant pots? Like, it's easy to see somebody else's clutter. If you are struggling with a partner who seems to have an awful lot of stuff and you feel like you don't have enough space and the clutter's driving you insane, it's really challenging, because it doesn't work to push somebody to declutter. It never works. You can't make somebody else declutter, and you also can't judge what they should get rid of, because it's very, very personal what matters to them, what matters to us and what doesn't matter to us. But what you can do is a couple of things. So the first thing, and it's a little bit counterintuitive, but the first thing is to declutter your own stuff. So if your partner's got too much stuff, I really, really recommend that you get absolutely on it with your own stuff. For a couple of reasons. Firstly, it gives them no room to say, it's not me, it's you, because you're really sorting your stuff out. Secondly, it will actually make a difference. You will end up with more space in the house, and you might find you can tolerate their stuff because there's more space in the house. And thirdly, you might inspire them to join in. So because when you clear your clutter, your life will work better. Even if your life works pretty well now, I promise, you go through all your stuff, it will work even better. And your partner will see that, and they'll start to see the benefits of decluttering and organizing. And if you're really lucky, they'll start to join in. Now, which case, don't go, great, let's get going and get stuck in there and shuffle their stuff out. But do be prepared to support them and say well done for everything they get rid of. Give them loads and loads and loads of praise and be really supportive, and maybe they'll come on board with it too.
You know, it's interesting too, is I'm always thinking numerologically. I'm thinking, you know, my partner does have some 5 energy in his chart. So do I. And the 5, which is a common number in people's charts, the 5 has a tendency to be a bit of a spontaneous spender. They're impulsive spenders, right? They are emotional spenders. So that's something to note too. If you have any 5 energy in your chart anywhere, that can be a really big indicator. So I always stop before I go to buy anything. I have to stop and ask myself, is this a want or a need? Right? Do I really need this? Or is it that's just something that I want? Okay. And in what emotional need in me isn't being met that says I have to have this right now?
Nice. Very nice. Yeah.
And that stopped me from buying a lot of stuff because, you know, it really gets to the root of why I need to have this, you know, new outfit or new thing or whatever. Who am I trying to impress? That sort of thing. Yeah,
really good. The other thing to say, actually, I must add on what I said previously, is on top of all that, going back to boundaries, it is really important that you maintain your boundaries, because some people listening to this will be with a partner who's got a bit of clutter. Some people listening to this maybe live with someone who's got hoarding tendencies, and so as they declutter their stuff, that person is really just going to start trying to encroach into their space. And so I do always stress it's very important to maintain your boundaries. So as you declutter your stuff, that doesn't mean that you no longer have the right to, you know, half the wardrobe space in the bedroom and, you know, some space to put things in each of the rooms in the house. It's your home too. And so you do have to really maintain those boundaries. And I think it is perfectly fair enough to set areas of the home that are yours. And that can include half the coffee table in the lounge, you know, it can include half the shared spaces. And say to your partner, this space is mine and you can't put anything in it. You can put anything you like in that space and I won't complain about it. You can't put anything in this space. And if they do have hoarding tendencies, they probably will start putting stuff in that space. And when they do, you just have to move it out. Don't have a massive argument about it. Just move it back out and hold those boundaries. Like, because otherwise you'll lose all the space altogether. You'll be squeezed out of your own home. And
exactly. So, and that comes back to the question I was going to ask about how, you know, once we get rid of the clutter, how do we stop from building it back up again? Right?
Yeah. And when you said to me, you know, one tip to give to the people watching, like, I mean, that kind of occurred to me as a possible tip to give, which is that actually stopping the clutter coming in is at least as important as getting the clutter out. Is the best way to declutter is to not acquire the stuff in the first place. So that's coming back to, like you were saying, like having some stops on yourself to check before you just acquire something else, to check and see, do I really want this, and think about, so I love that, is this a want or a need? And, you know, think also about, where am I going to put it? Like, have I got somewhere to store this? And think about the environmental impact of it, and how you're going to dispose of it at the end of its life, and have I actually already got something that fulfills the purpose of this? You know, just kind of check, do I really want to spend the money? If I say this thing costs £20, you know, would I actually really, if someone were to put this object in my hand for free or give me £20 for free, which would I rather have? And if the answer is I'd rather have £20, don't buy that object, you know. So just have some checks, so that when you have that impulse to acquire, you wait just a moment and check in with yourself whether you really want to acquire it. And also look for any opportunity to cut off stuff coming into the home. So, you know, like stop like mailings that get sent to you that you don't want. You know, like as I say, I've got lots of agreements with friends and family not to exchange gifts at Christmas and birthdays. We don't need to anymore. So stop stuff coming in as much as you possibly can.
You know, when I don't know if we talked about this when we did our previous little video there, but my son, when he was about 5 years old, he had this real thing for Pokemon. Did we talk about this? He had a real thing for collections. My son, if he bought one thing, he wanted the whole set, right? If it was like the Harry Potter series, it had to be the whole series. He wouldn't stop at just one, right? And that was fine. I respected that. And he loved to display things and have things organized and such. But he had a tendency to want to collect a lot of things. So what I did was I set him up with a layaway program at the Walmart. And I'll never forget the look on the cashier's face when he was giving his $2 and putting his toy that he wanted on layaway. She's like, "You're doing this for your kid?"
Layaway? I don't think we have that term in the UK. What is that?
Layaway?
Yeah.
Oh, it just means that you've decided that you want to buy something, but you don't have the money to buy it right now. So you give what it is you want to buy, you take it off the shelf, you take it to Layaway, they put it up on a shelf, right? And they put a number on it and they set you up with an account. And you can't have it until it's paid for, right? So my point with this was to teach him, he would get $5 a week for his allowance, right? And so this was teaching him how to budget, to say that, you know, but it also slowed down the train a little bit to allow him to go, do I really, really want that? You know, I've got it on Layaway and I'm responsibly paying a little bit off my allowance every week. But my point was, slow down the bus. Let's not make it an impulse buy, right? Let's slow it down, make sure that you really, really want it. And to this day, he's super good with his money, and he's very clutter free. You know, he doesn't acquire a whole bunch of stuff.
I have a whole series of little quotes from my mum, and my mum used to have like things my mum said that kind of, you know, that work as axioms for what I do now. And one of them is, if you want something badly enough, wait a while and you probably won't want it anymore.
Well, you know what? That's a very good point, because I remember because I am spontaneous, or I used to be. I'm not as much anymore, but I used to be a very spontaneous shopper. And if I get it in my head that I wanted to buy something, I would price shop really hard. And I would go from this store to this store to this store to this, imagining what it would be like to have it. And I would research everything and do the whole thing. This is before the internet. But then we didn't have Sunday shopping. And I knew that if I had not purchased that by 6 o'clock on Saturday, I knew that I had to have a timeout until Monday. And I was okay with that, because usually that timeout was enough for me to go, it's not important, I don't need it, and I cool my jets on it. But now that we have Sunday shopping, it's like, you can buy whatever you want, whenever you want. Amazon, holy, it's just got it. You know, it's pretty easy. So
one of my friends says if she's internet shopping, she'll put everything in the basket, and sometimes she says putting things in the basket is enough. Like she puts it in the basket, and then she can happily take it out of the basket again. But it's actually the experience of putting it in the basket gives her the buzz that shopping would give her without actually buying the thing.
Well, I learned something the other day. I did a reading for a gal who's an executive with Amazon. And once the reading was over, I said, do you mind if I ask you a question? And she said, sure. I said, well, because of COVID and everything else, I'm buying a lot more things on Amazon. I've never done that before, but it annoys me that if I buy 3 things through the course of the week, it arrives in 3 different trucks. Now I live in a rural area, about an hour and 15 minutes out of the city. So it's being dispatched from, the city and coming out to the country for little, and the stuff is arriving in these humongous boxes, and it's just a little tiny thing. I said, the waste is unbelievable. The emissions that's going into the air is unbelievable. It's like, this is terrible. What I didn't know, and I don't know that this is available in Canada because I personally can't find it on Amazon.ca, but Amazon.com has a feature that you can turn on in your account that is called My Amazon Day, which means that they will group all the shippage. You can say, I don't want anything until Wednesday of whatever date, because I'm going to be home, or that's my convenient day, whatever. They will combine the shipping. So what they'll also do is reduce the packing, right? The packing materials. So if you're in a small space and you have all this clutter of packing materials coming in, now you got to figure out what to do with it all, not to mention the environmental effect. Then that might be an efficient thing. I didn't know it, so I'm happy to share that, because I think that's important to know.
Sure.
So okay. We get 2 questions left I want to address. One being, what do people tend to forget to declutter?
Yeah, what do people forget to declutter? I think there's a danger. I think it's kind of easy. I always say that nothing is sacred when you're decluttering. So it can be easy to kind of step over something that you've been through before, or it's already packaged up. So when people go through work, they might come across a file of papers. Yeah. And then like, oh, I don't need to go through that, because it looks kind of neat and tidy already. And so they don't go through it. Whereas I always say, go through everything. And the thing to do is to be really, really systematic. So go through each thing one at a time in order. And then you don't end up stepping over anything. So the other thing that people always forget is digital stuff. They forget to go through their, get rid of their emails and get rid of their photos. And because you don't see it taking up physical space, it can be easy to forget about it. But actually, it has all the same impact as physical clutter. If you have all that digital clutter there that you don't know, that you can't find stuff, you don't know what's there, it's stressful, and it is possible to run out of space even now. So going through your digital stuff, I put together a specific video course on digital decluttering for that reason, like how to get to inbox 0 and easily stay there, and how to make your photos searchable so you can always find that you don't forget what lovely photos you've got. Right. Digital decluttering, that's another one.
Oh, very good point. Very, very good point. I just did that. I actually just did that and realized that I had emails from 2015 still in my Gmail account.
Yeah,
What?
I mean, when email was new, we used to actually write interesting emails, didn't we? We exchanged
Well,
emails.
the other thing is you sign up for things and you don't even realize that I had like page upon page upon page. I guess this one particular company was sending me an email every single day, but somehow it was hitting my junk mail. But it's still, like I got rid of all that.
Yeah.
So that's good. Very true. Very, very true. I know I get a little stressed out because my desktop is always a mess. But what's the most, here it is. What is the most interesting or shocking or amazing thing that you've ever found when decluttering someone's house?
Yeah, there have been a few actually. I think the absolute best, and not only was this the best thing that I found with somebody, but it happened to be videoing it at the time. I swear this was a total fluke. It's quite rare for me to be videoing with a client. Obviously most people wouldn't want me to do that, but occasionally clients are happy for me to do it and I can use it in courses and stuff. And I was making a video with this client, so the video's on my YouTube channel, anybody can find it. We were doing a desktop, which was absolutely heaped with loads of tiny little things. We're taking everything off it. We're going through it one at a time. We're sitting on the floor and I'm handing her each thing one at a time. And I came across this little baggie of something, hand it to her and she looks at it. You see it on the video. She looks at it and she's like, oh, I don't believe it. And I'm thinking like, what is it? And it was a diamond. It was an actual diamond. And not only was it a diamond, but it was a diamond with double sentimental value. So she'd inherited it. It was a rough diamond that her, can't remember who, great uncle or somebody or grandfather, I can't remember, had brought back from somewhere. I can't remember the details. He brought back two, and she and her partner had them set into rings to wear as they weren't sort of officially married, but they were like their wedding. So it was an heirloom that had been part of her wedding ring, and she'd lost it. Well, it had come out of the ring, and she'd put it in a little baggie to keep safe. And left it got lost in all this stuff on the desk. So on video, we found a diamond with double sentimental value. I couldn't believe it.
That's amazing. Oh my God.
I have also genuinely found a skeleton in a closet.
Like a real one?
It was a real, well, yeah, she was an osteopath, so she had a reason to own it. And many a sex toy and some spying equipment, but honestly, the majority of what you see is the same, and everybody's got the same stuff. Most of what is the same.
And that's the whole point. There's no judgment, right? You go into somebody's home or their office or whatever, there's never any judgment. That's what I love about you, Rachel. It's just like, it is what it is. Call in for my help. Let's do it. Right?
I personally do not care how people have their homes, so long as they're happy, as long as it works for them and they're happy. I don't care what it looks like to me. What I care about is that it works for them. That is really all I care about.
So you can actually meet with clients online, and you can do video conferencing with them. Yeah, help them. And I'm sure you're giving them exercises and things to do to keep it that way, so to speak.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, and you also have your clutter-free program. You want to talk a little bit about that? Explain that.
Yeah, it's a 30-day challenge. It's great because by giving yourself that set period of time, it kind of keeps you going and pulls you through it. So it's a 30-day challenge. You can do it there's kind of like two streams. So you can either take on the more challenging stream where you get daily tasks, or you can take it on a slightly less challenging way and get a weekly task.
Okay.
Every single day you get an email from me, and you get video, and every single day, as well as tasks, you get psychological insights. So things like the endowment effect that I was just talking about, all sorts of things like that. So to help you kind of cut through the irrational thought processes which we all have about our stuff. So it's a 30-day challenge. You get a daily input, and it pulls you through, and you will really transform your home in the course of a month. And it sets up habits too. It takes you through like tipping points. I find if you work for like a 30-day period, you go through these tipping points. So you start to stop enjoying acquiring stuff and start enjoying not acquiring stuff. You start enjoying decluttering and organizing instead of seeing it as this task that you have to just do every day. You kind of get through these tipping points that get you to loving decluttering and organizing because your life starts to work.
Well, so isn't it true that it takes 28 days to really form a habit?
They say that. I haven't seen the actual evidence, but they do say that 28 days to form a habit. I mean, for sure, if you do something every day for 30 days, it's become part of your life, isn't it?
I think this would be a great challenge, for a bunch of girls to get together and have everybody sign up for it. you know, or just couples or whatever, you know, just people in the office, like get your office space, get all your people in the office all on board, and everybody do it at the same time. I think that'd be amazing.
The other thing that you can do when you join Clutter Free in 30 days, you get a special offer that leads on from it, where you can join the Declutter Club, which is like an online virtual club for people all over the world, and you can join that for free for the period of time that you're on Clutter Free in 30 days. So if you want to be held to account and pulled through it and have people to support you through it, you can join the Declutter Club as well and have kind of a group of people cheering you on.
This is awesome, especially, you know, like I've gone through it with both when my father died and when my mother died, and yeah, it's tough. It's tough trying to get through that. And everybody needs to know too. I feel it's important to know that Rachel is not just somebody who's a professional organizer, but she's also got a degree in psychology. So she really gets the whole concept behind the emotional triggers for people who want to hold on to stuff and people want, you know, who have a resistance to getting rid of stuff. So she's the one-stop shop. So, and that we might add that 7 biggest clutter clearing mistakes and how to avoid them. We can find that at www.clutterfree30.com. You can sign up for it there, and it is free, guys. This is absolutely free. So make sure you sign up for that. Do yourself a favor. I think it's an amazing offer. So thanks, Rachel. I really appreciate you being here. Always a pleasure.
Fun again.
Yeah, always. So once again, check her out, clutterfree30.com. Thanks, guys. Look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.